You know you are being drained. Don't fool yourself. If there was enough energy, you wouldn't be tired before starting. If there was protection, there wouldn't be constant wear and tear. If there was a limit, you wouldn't feel empty. This is no surprise. It's a fact. And reality is cruel for those who ignore it. Observe the signs. That person diverts focus, disregards your needs, shows up only for convenience, and you give in sacrifice, accommodate, lose your essence. There's no complexity in this. There's a repeating pattern, and you maintain it. You call it friendship because dependency is hard to accept. You call it interest because exploitation demands action. Access remains because you allow it, not because it's healthy, but because you don't block it. Those who withdraw don't need permission. Those who accept always justify too much. And today you live trying to understand behaviors that are clear, but you insist on ignoring. When someone values you, they act. When someone respects you, they care. When someone wants you, they invest. Everything else is manipulation. If you need to beg for space, you've already lost. If you need to justify your presence, you're not in a safe place. If you struggle to be heard, that's not care, it's wear and tear. You're not trapped, you are allowing it. And allowing it is also a choice. The harsh truth is this: nothing changes because change is not convenient for those who receive without giving back. As long as you remain accessible, the scenario will remain intact. For the other person, you don't need more explanations. You don't need more promises. You don't need more attempts to fix it. You need to decide whether you will continue to allow this cost. There's no comfortable end in this cycle, just the moment you cut off access. And that moment doesn't come on its own. And you know that the choice to cut off is a mountain you refuse to climb. Why? The expectation of a different outcome. The longing for an act of kindness that never materializes. Every interaction is like an echo, repeating the same words without resonance. That person promises change but does not alter their behavior, promises careful attention but returns to ignoring. And you hope for the miracle, justify the inconsistency, work around your own limits. Each frustrated expectation is a burden you carry, believing that maybe, just maybe, it's worth it. Can you see it? The vicious cycle, the exhausting routine, the empty promises that dance around you like shadows on a cloudy day. You try to believe in the light that never appears. There are no answers. The one who takes never worries about the consequences. The one who receives all this energy flow doesn't look back. It can be comfortable to some extent to allow yourself to be the source, but don't be mistaken. It also consumes you. A silent, subtle wear and tear that corrodes your essence. Now ask yourself, what is the real cost of this relationship? It's a question you avoid. The fear of the answer echoes louder than your inner voice. The truth? The bond remains because you allow it, not because it's healthy. You become a comfort object, someone who fills gaps, but is rarely seen. On the surface, everything seems normal, but underneath there is a storm. The connection you feel is just a reflection of what you offer, not what you receive. And the one who offers always becomes vulnerable. You might think that you are strong, that you can endure, but that strength is a facade. Emotional wear is not tangible, but it is corrosive. It transforms you little by little. You become a specter of what you could be, a shadow of your own existence, always waiting for someone to call you back to life. But that call doesn't come. When you go, you find yourself surrounded by doubt. What happened? Why did you accept this? Why do you still stay? Time passes, and expectation turns into resignation. You adapt, but you forget how to live fully. You know there is no happy ending in situations like this. There is only the reality you choose to ignore. You believe that change is a possibility, but you do not act. You wait for the other person, thinking that a gesture from them can make everything worthwhile. And that gesture never comes. When it does appear, it is in the form of crumbs. You feed on fragments, the affection, the promises, and in their absence, you settle for little. The pain becomes familiar, the emptiness a second skin. You become an expert in justifying and rationalizing. The truth is that no one changes for another's desire. They change when it becomes necessary. And as long as you continue to accept things as they are, nothing will be different. The cycle perpetuates. For the recipient, the dynamic is easy. For you, it is a path of regret. You cry out for change but stay in the same place. That empty space you occupy is comfortably painful. It is familiar. It is a place where you feel safe, but the safety is illusory. You hold the pain in your hands as if it were a trophy, a sign of endurance. But endurance is not a fair price. Look around you. Ask yourself, is this really worth it? What you want, can it be attained? Or are you just swimming against the tide? With each moment that passes, you take another step towards what you do not desire. Each hesitation is a decision to remain in inertia. Your needs should not be a negotiation. They should not be a request or a plea. But you find yourself doing that every day. Yourself is begging, and those who truly care do not do that. Those who are willing to commit act. The conclusion is clear. What you tolerate establishes the standard. You already know the answer. But recognizing it means doing what you fear, cutting the ties that bind you to this reality, awakening from the trance that prevents you from truly living. And when you finally decide to act, there will be a new pain, the pain of separation, the pain of detaching from what was known. But relief comes in waves, a new space to breathe, a new beginning in sight. There is no other viable option. Reality has already been presented. Relief, however, is an ambiguous concept. The process of letting go reveals itself to be more complicated than simple words suggest. When ties break, there is a loss that echoes, like the absence of a familiar sound. You believe you are freeing yourself, but you carry with you the weight of memory, of unfulfilled promises, of words that were never said. The reality is that you are not just saying goodbye to the person, you are saying goodbye to who you were with them, and that is frightening. Each memory transforms into a painful reminder of what was not and what could have been. The idea of a connection becomes an invisible thread that links your identity to that relationship. It is difficult to simply untie that knot. The past whispers, trying to convince you to stay in the safe place you know. It is a cruel dilemma, the comfort of the known versus the possibility of something new. To resist this change, you cling to the remnants of moments that still make your heart race. The sporadic laughs, the knowing glances, even the fights that somehow seem significant. The mind creates a space where what should have been transforms into a well-structured illusion. With each step you take towards exiting this exhausting situation, a part of you screams to go back, a persistent echo that opposes your desire for change. You feel as if you are abandoning not just the person, but also the idealized version of yourself that lived in this dynamic. The fear of the unknown is a monster that grows, and you find yourself struggling between resistance and the will to move forward. Your head says to give up, but your heart still hopes for something that may not happen. You find yourself at an emotional crossroads, with each choice weighing on your shoulders. The desire for connection is inherent to human beings, and if that means accepting crumbs, many prefer to live in the shadow of scarce affection rather than face loneliness. But here is the raw truth. This is not a real connection. This is not a friendship. It is a simulation that you feed with your hopes. You give, but you do not receive. You consent, but you are not respected. Focusing on the pain of what was lost is easier than accepting the harshness of reality. You await mirages, hoping that an act of kindness will save the day, but these acts are always postponed. In this cycle, you have already realized that your needs have become a negotiation, an offer made under the pressure of a smile or an empty promise. Each time you accept unknowingly, you propagate the idea that your worth is negotiable. And who values such a currency? No one. Allowing this to happen is like wounding your own skin. You hurt yourself while trying to protect yourself. Discomfort becomes a constant. It is difficult to explain this to those who do not understand, to those who have not lived this intense internal battle. Those who are not trapped in this cycle do not see the complexity of what you face. To them, the solution is simple. But life is rarely simple. It is full of nuances, layers, and memories that make everything more difficult. You start to realize that the true cost is your essence. You are spending your energy on something that brings no satisfaction. Time goes by and you slowly become aware that it's not just about a failed relationship. It's about a pattern you have established for yourself. This dance of weariness has become your routine, and you never stop to question, why do I accept this? Then, when you finally decide to act, the decision is accompanied by an emotional avalanche, the tears, the memories, the doubt. What comes next? At that moment, what seems to be an end can also be a beginning. However, it takes courage. Courage to look in the mirror and recognize the pain you allowed yourself to experience. Courage to cross the line that separates comfort from pain. Remember that it is usually easier to continue in a known cycle than to take the uncertain leap into the unknown. As you hesitate, the world keeps turning. Other people move on, other opportunities arise, and you remain still, trapped in a state of emotional limbo. A new identity awaits you, but you must be willing to let it in. Resilience does not come from ease, it comes from suffering and learning. Each of these moments of doubt serves to shape the future. You can't change what happened, but you can decide that you no longer wish to go through it. The power is in your hands. The decision can be terrifying, but what is even scarier is staying in the same place, day after day, perpetuating the pain. And then you realize, the true act of self-love is not in waiting for someone else to make a move, but in taking the initiative to take the first step. And that first step does not need to be grand. It can be as simple as saying no. It can be as powerful as walking away from all of it, because in the end you are the only one responsible for your own balance. The reality has already been presented. When you finally realize what is really happening, the feeling is like an electric shock. A reality that has always been in front of you, but that you refuse to see. Every moment of doubt, every moment of hesitation, turns into clarity. And this clarity brings with it a new pain, a responsibility you must accept. Looking within is unsettling. You begin to realize how much you have lost. How much your needs have been relegated to the background. Sometimes you find yourself thinking about who you were before all of this, before shaping yourself to another person, before allowing your expectations to be manipulated. Who were you? What do you want? These questions echo in your mind, insistent, but you have no answers, and that bothers you. Facing your truth is not easy. The fear of isolating yourself, of losing connections, weighs like a brick. The idea of being left out is terrifying. You have tried to walk away, but every time you do, part of you regrets it. What you don't realize is that this regret doesn't come from the loss of the other person, but from the loss of who you could be without this toxic connection. You cling to the idea that you cannot live without her, without him, but this dependence reveals itself to be a prison, the chain that you yourself forged. You feel guilty for wanting more, guilty for wanting less pain and more love. Your mind wages a constant battle between the need for comfort and the desire for freedom. You convince yourself that small things sustain this bond, but in fact they are invisible shackles, and with each passing day, these shackles tighten a little more. Memories invade your mind, bringing a distorted nostalgia. You remember the laughs, the happy moments shared, but do these moments justify the pain that usually accompanies them? These images become blurred when you try to remember the arguments, the lies, the broken promises. The fragility of this bond becomes evident. You are not in a relationship. You exist in a state of waiting. You know what your priority should be. You know you should value yourself more, but the desperation of being alone keeps you trapped in this spiral. Strangely, it is more comfortable to be surrounded by pain than to face loneliness. You allow yourself to minimize what you feel, believing that maybe one day things will change, but you know that there are no signs of it. Change does not happen when you wait. Saying no is an act that requires courage, affirmation. And this affirmation returns to you as a distant echo, like a voice lost in the mists of the past. In it, you realize that every no you fail to say opens space for discomfort, an old wound that never heals. Every crumb you accept feeds a vicious cycle that seems endless. And what do you really gain? Ephemeral moments of joy in exchange for a sea of uncertainties. You oscillate between hope and frustration. This oscillation is not a dance, it is a fall for which you have already prepared. You know the bottom is painful, but you no longer fear the impact. When you finally decide to walk away, a wave of relief may flood you, but this wave is followed by a whirlwind of emotions, memories that stubbornly return. The pain of separation is not just physical, it is emotional, a mourning for what could have been, for the connections you idealized, but that never fully existed. Each memory turns into a body in your internal cemetery, and you must bury them one by one. It is arduous work, but necessary. You have to learn to say goodbye to expectations, to the vision of a future that was not meant to happen. It is not a matter of ignoring, but of accepting. Accepting that this story is not yours. It never was. You are the protagonist of something greater, and every step you take towards self-affirmation transforms into a manifesto against the pain you accepted for so long. The journey of liberation is filled with shadows, but in those shadows, you begin to rebuild. And each fragment of yourself that you recover is an act of rebellion, a sign that you refuse to continue in the same routine that exhausted you. You are learning to create new memories, new friendships that don't require concessions. You begin to set boundaries, and that can seem scary, but as you move forward, the feeling of lightness takes over. The weight of expectations dissolves. You discover that saying no can be as powerful as saying yes. You bid farewell to whoever you used to be, but you also welcome the person you are becoming. And although the road ahead may still be filled with challenges, now you walk with more firmness. Finally, when you look back, you will see that the pain was necessary. It shaped you, it taught you, and above all, it prepared you for the raw truth. The reality has already been presented.